Mm. Hey, this is Anna with Virgo, and the transition coming at you completely surpasses where your expectations currently stand. Subscribe because what is on its way exceeds your own imagination. Uh, there's wave of grace building momentum toward your shore. And the amplitude of goodness it carries transcends your conditioned assumptions about what's possible for someone like you, someone with your history, someone who's endured what you've endured and survived what you've survived. This isn't modest improvement where things get slightly better in predictable incremental ways, where you climb one small step higher on the ladder you've been climbing. This is quantum leap, dimensional shift, complete recalibration of what your daily existence feels like. Tastes like, breathes like when you wake into it. The universe is preparing to deliver experiences so nourishing, so healing, so joy saturated that your current self can barely fathom them, which is precisely why you'd be surprised. And the surprise element, that reveals you've been living under ceiling of expectation, invisible but real, that caps how much goodness you believe you're allowed to receive. You've made peace with struggle. You've adapted to scarcity. You've normalized a baseline of difficulty that made you resilient, but also made you forget that life can be soft, can be generous, can overflow with sweetness that requires nothing from you except willingness to receive it. In the sacred disruption of joy arriving at scales you stopped believing in, you're being invited to shatter your own glass ceiling, to expand your capacity for receiving is less than hash zero. 5 hash is greater than to stretch beyond the small story of yourself as someone for whom things are hard, always hard, perpetually challenging. That story served your survival, but it no longer serves your thriving. And what's approaching demands you abandon it entirely. Let me illuminate what flavors this goodness might take as it saturates your reality. In the alchemy of transformation from barren to abundant, certain signatures appear consistently when life is preparing to flood dry riverbeds with rushing water. Synchronicities multiply like seeds after rain. Small miracles become ordinary occurrences. Doors swing open that you weren't even reaching for. And the resistance you've grown accustomed to pushing against suddenly, mysteriously, vanishes. Your landscape likely already shows early blooms of this shift, moments where things went improbably well, where help arrived unbidden, where solutions presented themselves without you engineering every detail through sheer force of will. These aren't random, they're preview. They're the universe teaching you a new language, the dialect of ease, the grammar of grace, the vocabulary of being supported rather than always supporting yourself alone. Watch for the pattern of effortlessness beginning to weave itself through your days. Notice when you expect struggle and encounter flow instead. Pay attention to moments when you brace for impact and experience gentle landing. These moments aren't flukes, they're your new normal, announcing itself in whispers before it arrives in fullness is less than has hone. 0 hash is greater than teaching you to recognize it. to trust it, to stop bracing and start receiving. Some goodness manifests as relational abundance, people entering your sphere who see you clearly, who value what you bring, who meet you with the reciprocity you've been offering others for years without receiving equivalent return. These aren't perfect people. They're real people capable of showing up, capable of consistency, capable of cherishing you in ways that make you realize how much you've been accepting crumbs while calling it feast. You might be approaching the arrival of someone or multiple someones who transform your understanding of what relationship can be, not through perfection, but through genuine presence, not through never disappointing, but through repairing when rupture happens, not through meeting every need, but through caring enough to try. The shock will be discovering that healthy love exists, that you're not too damaged to receive it, that your standards weren't too high. Everyone else's efforts were just too low. Others taste like professional or creative breakthrough, where work that felt like pushing boulder uphill suddenly feels like riding river downstream, where your offerings find their right audience, where compensation finally reflects value you generate, where recognition arrives not because you performed for it, but because your authentic excellence became undeniable to those positioned to reward it. This reflection invites you to consider is less than #0. 5# is greater than which domain of your life has felt most starved and would most benefit from flood of goodness. Let me clarify what about to get reveals about timing and imminence in the mystical sense. About to carries the quality of water already released from dam, gravity already pulling it downward, momentum already irreversible even if you can't yet see the wave approaching around the river's bend. This isn't distant, maybe. This isn't vague someday. This is the pregnant pause before birth, the held breath before the cry, the charged stillness before lightning illuminates the sky. In the liminal space between what was and what's becoming, you're standing in the doorway, one foot still in the room of your familiar struggle, one foot already crossing threshold into chamber you haven't fully entered yet, but can smell the sweetness wafting from. The transition is beginning, not completed, which means you're in the most delicate phase, where old patterns will fight hardest to maintain their grip, where your own disbelief might close doors that are swinging open. It's essential you recognize that imminence in spiritual terms operates differently than clock time. The goodness gathering might materialize in days or weeks or months, measured linearly, but it's already real in the energetic dimensions, already formed in the invisible, already making its way through layers of reality toward the physical plane where you can touch it, taste it, live inside it. Some goodness arrives suddenly, like summer storm is less than #0. 5# is greater than one moment the sky is clear and the next you're drenched in blessings. Opportunity appearing fully formed. Love declaring itself without preamble. Abundance manifesting through unexpected windfall. These sudden arrivals feel most surprising because you had no time to prepare, no gradual buildup that let you adjust expectations. Just instant shift from lack to overflow. You might experience exactly this kind of rapid onset goodness, where one phone call changes everything, where one conversation opens doors you didn't know existed, where one synchronistic encounter introduces element that catalyzes transformation across multiple life domains simultaneously. The surprise will be the speed, the suddenness, the way your reality reorganizes before you fully process that reorganization is happening. Others unfold like dawn, gradual brightening, so subtle you don't notice exact moment darkness became light. Just recognize eventually that you can see clearly now, that warmth has replaced cold, that the long night has definitively ended, even though you can't pinpoint the precise instant of transition. This gradual goodness sneaks up on you, accumulating in increments until one day you wake up and realize, oh, oh, my life is actually beautiful now. When did that happen? This reflection invites you to consider, would sudden transformation or gradual brightening feel more trustable to your nervous system conditioned by difficulty? Let me address what surprises you specifically about goodness rather than hardship. The shock won't be that something is happening. Your life has always been eventful, always full of happenings and occurrences and developments. The shock will be that what's happening is unambiguously good, uncomplicated by hidden costs, unaccompanied by suffering that balances the sweetness, requiring no sacrifice that negates the gift through what you lose to gain it. In your history of mixed blessings and Pyrrhic victories, you've learned to suspect joy, to wait for the other shoe, to brace yourself, because good never came without price tag that sometimes exceeded the value of what you received. But this approaching wave of goodness operates under different economics. The abundance paradigm where receiving doesn't deplete source, where your having doesn't require someone else's lacking, where joy multiplies rather than divides, where grace flows without demanding payment. It's critical you prepare to receive goodness that's just good, that doesn't need you to suffer for it or earn it through previous pain or balance it through future hardship. Your preparation is internal, dismantling the belief that you must pay for happiness, releasing the story that ease means you're not working hard enough, abandoning the scarcity logic that says if life is good now, it must mean catastrophe is coming to restore cosmic balance. Some goodness you'll receive will confuse you initially because it doesn't match your template for how blessings arrive. It won't require you to nearly destroy yourself first, is less than #0. 5 is greater than won't demand you prove your worth through suffering. Won't ask you to choose between two things you love because you can't have both. Instead, it will offer you, here, have this good thing, and this other good thing, and also this third good thing you didn't even ask for, but it's yours anyway. You might respond to this uncomplicated generosity with suspicion initially, analyzing it for hidden traps, searching for the cost you'll discover later. Unable to simply receive because receiving without suffering first feels foreign to your muscle memory. But the goodness will be patient with your suspicion. It will stay offered even while you examine it. It will wait for you to recognize it's real, that you're allowed to have it, that receiving doesn't make you weak or spoiled or undeserving. It makes you finally aligned with your actual worthiness. This reflection invites you to consider what beliefs about deserving or earning or paying for goodness would you need to release to receive uncomplicated joy. Let me speak to what you should do as this goodness approaches and arrives. Practice the art of the open hand, the unclenched fist, the receptive posture that doesn't grasp or control but simply allows. Your work isn't making the goodness happen. It's already happening in dimensions. You can't force or manipulate. Your work is not blocking it through disbelief or unworthiness or the strange self-protection of refusing joy to avoid potential disappointment. In the spiritual discipline of receiving is less than #0. 5# is greater than your learning new skill that your survival mode never taught you. You're developing capacity that struggle doesn't build. You're stretching internal muscles atrophied from years of clenching against impact. Receiving requires vulnerability, requires trust, requires willingness to be affected and changed by what you allow in. And that vulnerability might feel more dangerous than the familiar armor of expecting nothing. It's important you notice when you're deflecting goodness, when compliments land and you immediately minimize them, when opportunities present and you list reasons you're not qualified, when love is offered and you question the giver's judgment for offering it. These deflections are defense mechanisms. They kept you safe, when accepting would have meant being crushed by subsequent loss. But now they're keeping out exactly what you've been praying for, exactly what would nourish your starving places, exactly what your soul has been crying out to receive. When goodness arrives, practice saying thank you instead of explaining why you don't deserve it. Practice accepting instead of deflecting. Practice letting yourself feel joy without immediately contaminating it with fear that joy can't last. Practice being someone to whom good things happen, not as exception to your normal difficulty, but as your new normal that you're learning to inhabit without apology or disbelief. Some of you will need to grieve as goodness arrives, will need to cry for all the years you went without is less than #0. 5# is greater than all the times you needed exactly this and it didn't come. All the younger versions of yourself who would have been saved so much pain if this goodness had arrived sooner, let those tears flow. They're not ungrateful. They're holy. They're honoring what you survived while also celebrating what's finally here. This reflection invites you to consider what practice would help you stay open to receiving goodness rather than deflecting it through unworthiness or suspicion. You'd be surprised at how good it's about to get for you. Your expectations have been conditioned by difficulty into shapes too small to hold what's approaching. The goodness gathering exceeds your current capacity to imagine it, which is why surprise is guaranteed. why your breath will catch, why you'll need to pinch yourself to confirm you're not dreaming, why you'll struggle initially to trust that ease and sweetness and joy are yours to keep, not just to borrow briefly before hardship returns. And your sacred work is expansion, stretching your inner chambers to accommodate the flood, releasing the ceiling on your expectations, dismantling beliefs that say suffering is your destiny and joy is for others, practicing the radical act of receiving goodness as if you deserve it, because you do, not because you earned it through pain, but because you're alive, and alive means worthy, and worthy means the universe wants to fill your cup until it overflows. May you recognize goodness when it arrives. May you receive it without deflecting. May you trust it without waiting for catastrophe. May you finally let yourself have easy, have sweet, have good. The wave is building, the sweetness is gathering, your surprise is coming, your heart is about to break open with relief. Remember this: you've been strong for so long because you had to be, because survival demanded it, because no one was coming to save you, so you saved yourself. But strength that comes from necessity is different from strength that comes from fullness. And you're about to discover the second kind, the kind where you're powerful, not because you're fighting to survive, but because you're thriving, because you're nourished, because life is finally giving back in proportion to what you've given. You've earned this through surviving. You deserve this through being. It's coming regardless of belief. Let it surprise you. Let it heal you. Let it be as good as it's going to be.